Hey everybody, it's Tyler Esselman.
And it's Michael Osinski.
And you are listening to This One Goes to 11.
This One Goes to 11, the podcast where we invite someone to share an album with us that they believe is perfect.
So perfect, in fact, Michael, that 10 out of 10 just isn't good enough.
Hell no.
So, Michael, I was thinking for our intro question today, I was wondering, what is to you the prototypical song of the summer?
Prototypical? I mean, doesn't it change every summer?
It does, yeah. But I believe that most people have like a song or two that is their prototypical song of the summer over the course of their lives.
I can't identify one that is like my song of the summer. I mean, I feel like there are a lot of songs I have that they sound like road trip songs.
Yep.
At least two of them are read by Pearl Jam for me. But
big surprise there.
But when I think song of the summer, I tend to think pop. Like I tend
to
think like it's going to be a pop song. Like I feel like the Pandemic Summer would have been a Lady Gaga song because I think Chromatica came out then. I mean, I remember the summer of 2020. I was listening to a lot of Dua Lipa and Lady Gaga, which felt so weird because they felt like such danceable albums that we should all be listening to out in the world in the summer. And yet I was in my tiny, barely one-bedroom apartment with my husband exercising in our small living room with our two cats there, and like just thinking, God, I hate this. Like, and so it was
still the summer though.
It still was the summer, yeah. But it was. But I think pop songs in general, and usually something that has some sort of like catchy riff or some sort of, I don't know, something like that. But what about you? Is there a song that you always associate with the summer?
If we're going on the same tack that you are, I agree that it's usually a pop song. It's usually something like fluff, just very like cotton candy, absolutely. And so the two, when I think of songs of the summer, the two that immediately come to mind for some reason, say what you will about either of these artists, but are California Girls by Katy Perry and Uptown Funk by Bruno Mars. Like, those are songs of the summer.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think Katy Perry always most of her music sounds like the summer to me anyway.
Because she's always shouting. It's always like she's outside. she's outside. She's having a great time. She's a great singer, but
she's not always shouting. She's
shouty. Katy Perry is shouty in a good way. Way.
All right. Okay, I'll accept it.
Well, I think today we are talking about an album that could have any number of songs of the summer on it, in my opinion, and it's being presented to us by a really excellent guest today. Michael, who are we speaking to today?
We are talking to my friend, Mikael Burke. Mikael Burke is an extremely talented, he didn't put that in his bio, I added that for him, an extremely talented Chicago-based director, deviser, and educator who has won a Princess Grace Award in theater and has been nominated for a Jeff Award for his directing. He's worked with such companies as Chicago Shakespeare Theater, the Goodman Theater, Timeline Theater Company, Northlight Theater, Jackalope, First Floor Theater, where I believe he was also associate artistic director for a hot second. And outside of Chicago, he's also worked at Yale Rep, Forward Theater, Indiana Rep, and he's about to work at TheaterWorks in Colorado Springs, a place that I believe you know quite well, Tyler.
I do.
He's directed all sorts of premieres. I mean, he's an amazing, he's super talented artist. Also was the associate artistic director at About Face Theater. But I know him because we are both MFA directing grads from the theater school of DePaul University, and we both worked at a little place called Cherubs.
Cherubs. If you know the pod, if you know Michael, you know Cherubs.
You do.
You know it well. You forgot to say the theater school at DePaul University, formerly known as the Goodman School of Drama.
Sorry, how could I forget that?
For shame.
But no, we've been trying to get Michael on for a bit, and he's just been so gosh darn busy. But we finally got him. Yeah. Finally got him.
He's the best, and he brought an album to the pod that we could have never expected and was a total delight to revisit and talk about. So, let's stop wasting any more time. Let's just do this, shall we?
Yeah, let's get right to it. Well, Mikael Burke, welcome to This One Goes to 11. How you doing tonight?
I'm so good. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Sure, you're like, I mean, well, y'all listeners, you heard in the intro his bio. This is like Michael Burke's the real deal, and we are but mere mortals in his presence.
Oh my gosh, I wish that were actually true. But
we believe that you would come to this task that we would set before you with the requisite amount of seriousness, which is really what we want from our guests. We want rigor. You know, we want somebody to really tackle this question. And so, thusly, you have nominated 4 albums that you believe are perfect. Tell us, what album hath thou brought before the This One Goes to 11 tribunal today?
today we are going to be talking about the magnificent 2002 summer bop, Songs About Jane by Maroon 5.
Yes, you heard that correctly, listeners. Songs About Jane by Maroon 5, in the opinion of Michael Burke, is a perfect album. This is what we've been waiting for. This is a culmination. This is a turning point in the podcast, I would say. I think that in the lifespan of our pod, I can't believe you've brought this album. It's insane. I'm not going to say why I think it's insane just yet, but do you feel that? Do you feel its insanity?
Oh no, I know it's absolutely bonkers, and I think that you haven't even asked me a question yet. But the first thing that I just have to say out loud is that there has been no subsequent album from this band that has even remotely lived close to my heart.
I love that.
But this one truly does.
Good point. But, you know, Michael, it's this band, so ubiquitous. They're everywhere. They're in our commercials. They're in our coffee. They're in our food. You know, they're just about everywhere that culture is in America. But maybe somebody out there is not quite familiar with this band. And we have a perfect segment to catch everybody up. Michael, what is that segment called?
That segment is called The Beginner's Guide to Maroon 5's Songs About Jane in 60 Seconds. And Tyler is going to be handling it today.
I am.
So, Michael, what you get to do, before we evaluate your case, of course, you get to evaluate his presentation in terms of how well he does in summing up the band and the album in just 60 seconds. And use whatever scale you choose. It can be quantitative, it can be qualitative, it can be whatever sort of rubric is feeling right now. So, that means I gotta put 60 seconds on the clock, don't I?
Yeah, okay, so while you do that, I'll just say that I think I swung for the fences with this one. I wanted to create a miniature piece of art with this 60-second intro.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what that means, but
now
you
I'm
intrigued. I'm just trying to be real confident about it because, you know, this is hard to do in 60 seconds. Remember when Michael first proposed this as a segment, I was like, okay, I guess we're giving ourselves that task every week or sometimes multiple times a week. But anyway, I'm ready. I'm ready when you are, Michael.
All right. 60 seconds on the clock, going in 3, 2, 1, go.
Initially dubbed Kara's Flowers, the band that would become Maroon 5 was formed by Los Angeles-bred school chums Ryan Dusick, Mickey Madden, Jesse Carmichael, and some guy named Adam Levine. They parlayed persistent LA gigging during their high school years into a label signing that didn't quite launch, leading to the wilting of Kara's Flowers. After a semester away at college and apparently some pretty revelatory exposure to hip-hop and R&B, they reunited back home with a blue-eyed pop soul sound that would evolve into their signature. They signed with Octone Records and began their ascent into the pop stratosphere then. Songs About Jane, their debut with Octone, is so named in honor of Levine's then-girlfriend Jane Herman, for whom many of the album's lovelorn lyrics are penned. It was hugely successful commercially and garnered a generally positive critical reception that praised its efficient radio-ready funk and noted that it wasn't as useless as one would hope.
15 seconds.
Laugh all you want, but if Levine and Co.'s subsequent success is any indication, when you turn on the radio in your space car driving home from work on Mars, I'd bet Maroon 5 will be playing. I didn't even need all of them.
You didn't need all 60 seconds. I'm sorry, did you say the wilting of Kara's Flowers?
I did.
Okay, all right.
I did.
That was good, yeah.
I just want to reiterate that. All right, Michael Burke, what say you about Tyler's presentation there?
Well, I think if I'm thinking about driving home in my space car, so I'm going to give that 15 bleep blorps and just appreciate that was quite succinct and got to the heart of what I appreciate about the band really succinctly. Yeah.
Thank you. I take that as a high compliment. I'm proud of that one. Before we get too far into the album itself yet, we like to ask you a question because we like you. That's why we invited you to join us today. And we'd love to know, just sort of in a general sense, writ large, what is your relationship with music like on a day-to-day basis?
I'm a big listener of music, but I didn't know that this was. I didn't really understand that. I don't know that I would say I'm unique, but I don't listen to lyrics. Not that I don't listen to lyrics, but it's not what I lead with. I tend to be drawn to sound and musicality first, and then through repetition, I realize that I know the lyrics.
Yeah.
So a lot of what I listen to doesn't have lyrics. I do a lot of listening tied to my art making, which is why my Spotify Wrapped every year is trash.
It's all like Brian Eno and
skewed
stuff.
toward very skewed toward whatever pieces I was working on that year. But I listen a lot. I find it really sort of it makes. I like to work with music in the background. I like to drive with music. If it's hot outside, I want music that I can roll down the windows and scream sing to. If it's cold outside, I want music that I can vibe to. But I am drawn to the sound of it more than I am the poetry of it at first. And then when the poetry is also great, I find my way, that's delicious too. But
yeah,
it's the music of the music that I really like.
The music of the music. I like that. No, it's the music of the music. I'll give you 15,000 points for that. That's pretty damn good.
Did you ever learn any musical instruments growing up, or sing in the choir or anything like that?
Yeah, so I played viola for 4 years. I played piano for a couple years, but I was a singer technically I still am, but I was in choir from elementary school through college. I was a vocal performance major at first before I came over to the dark side. And that means theater for the uninitiated.
Yeah, they know.
They have to know by now.
But no, I'm very sort of musical in my life growing up. It's actually, a really interesting time in college when I realized that I loved singing, but I did not love being a singer. And the sort of crisis of faith of what do I do?
Was that what you perceived as the lifestyle of a singer, or was it what you perceived as like the physical requirements necessary to be a singer?
A little of both. The lifestyle, the methodology, the sort of very rigid right and wrong that is truly about the safety of your instrument. But at the time, I just felt so bound by it versus theater that felt like it had a lot more freedom, a lot more subjectivity in what is right and what is good and bad, et cetera, and really felt like I could do my own thing. That was sort of the main thing. I just felt like may become a theme as we talk more about my relationship to this album at all, but I just felt trapped by music, by singing in particular, and theater felt the opposite.
Oh man, I would never want to feel trapped by music. That is, I feel like that would be like, I don't know, because I think often about, here's just like hypothetical question. When people always ask that question about like, would you rather be blind or deaf? Obviously we'd rather be neither, but like, if you had to lose one of those, which one would you prefer to lose? I guess I can't imagine life without music. So I think there's my answer. I guess I don't know.
Yeah,
well, that's so hard.
Yeah,
it is hard to think about, isn't it? And it's such an easy. It's so the talk about right and wrong. It's like that's that black and white thing where you're like, especially like shades of music. I think it would almost be harder to have like be partially deaf just after having experienced music in the way that I have for so long. Is hey, it leaves us all, isn't it? That's the way bodies work, right? And all bodies are different too. And there's no, there's nothing less than in that. But I do like the idea of those things becoming heightened, right? Like, you always hear about people who suffer vision loss, and then their hearing becomes real, like that. That to me is an amazing phenomenon in the body.
I'm sorry to take us real deep there early on. I'm sorry. Didn't mean to put a weight on everything here.
growing up is a constant process, right? That never ends. But it's always interesting for us to hear about music that you grew up with, music that you hold near and dear to your heart from a young age, for any multitude of developmental and anthropological reasons. But tell us some of the artists that maybe live in your heart from that era of your life, maybe adolescence, and then answer the question of if Maroon 5 is one that would fall into that category.
Oh, I mean, like, if we're talking real, like youth, I think that the easiest answer is the Motown Christmas album,
Cool.
because it is a conglomerate of the folks that were often played in my house. Michael Jackson, The Temptations. If it was Black R&B from the 60s and 70s, 80s, it was on in my house in some form. My mom was a huge Luther Vandross fan, so he was always on. My parents got divorced when I was 4, though, so what I was exposed to was very different depending on who I was with.
Sure.
My dad was really big, almost exclusively jazz and new age jazz, like
Alice Coltrane kind of thing, like that kind of vibe.
Yeah, even like Take 6. What's her name? Keiko something. I can't remember her last name. Like contemporary jazz, and it was near constant. He had like a series of cassette tapes that he had recorded that he kept in a tape deck in his car that he would just cycle through for years. And my stepdad, with my mom, was a DJ on the local R&B hip hop station.
Oh, cool.
So it was just like, that's what I sort of grew up steeped in, was hip hop and R&B, jazz, and like old film on the other side. But then as I sort of started growing up and starting to become my own person, it was a lot of white girl pop. Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, Jessica Simpson, Mandy Moore, the Wade Robson remix of Mandy Moore's Candy.
But that's very specific.
Wait, sorry, you get 500,000 points for the Wade Robson remix of Mandy Moore's Candy. Was that what it was?
Yeah, it's great. Check it out. So a lot of that, and then and that paired with sort of the kind of pop rock that I was a little bit late for the sort of Nirvana and grunge wave. I came back to those things later, but the sort of pop rockness of like Offspring and things like that. Rooney was a band I really liked when I was younger.
Wow.
Maroon 5 definitely was one of those.
Was Rooney the one with the guy who was in Princess Diaries? Was he in that? Was he the actor in that movie?
I have no idea. Again, I was really bad at actually knowing anything about who was doing the music.
That's such a useless piece of trivia, I know. But I'll confirm that for all of our listeners who are interested. I'll find out.
Yeah, so those are sort of, I guess, the things that sort of got me through childhood, adolescence, and then when I hit college, big ship turn in different directions. But
hell yeah,
I also really liked Bjork in high school. I still do. But.
She's great, isn't she? We haven't talked enough about Bjork on the pod, have we, Michael?
We haven't. I mean, that's another artist that I feel like I fell off the Bjork train. I want to say like maybe after Vespertine or something like that. We'll have to talk about Bjork some other, like in greater detail.
I would like that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming I kind of already know the answer to this question, but how specifically did you come to discover the Maroon 5 and particularly this album? I mean, were you a Kara's Flowers fan beforehand? Were you magnetically drawn to Adam Levine? Like, what is the
Sure. Well, it's funny because so this came out the summer between my freshman and sophomore year of high school. I did not know that until earlier today when I looked up when did this album come out.
Oh wow!
But it was the summer between freshman and sophomore year, but what I do remember vividly is that this was back when MTV would still play music, particularly late at night, and. This one particular night that summer, I had fallen asleep with the TV on, and I woke up, I don't know, had to have been 2 or 3 a.m. to like turn it off and go to bed. But I woke up to this song that I'd never heard before, and I couldn't turn the TV off because I was just so sort of wrapped in like, what is this?
Yeah.
It like grabbed me in some way. And you know, then I'm an ADHD individual. And so when I hear something that strikes a nerve and starts to make me feel things, then I wear that shit out. And so I proceeded to listen to it a lot until the album came out, and then, you know, the rest is history. But it found me in the middle of the night. Yeah, the single got me before the band or the album did. Just that one single.
Wait, and clarify, which song was that?
That was Harder to Breathe, which is funny when I think about it now.
so you're like early adopter in some ways, right? Because that song came out, but like the album didn't really take off for another year and a half or 2 years.
But I was into them from jump.
Well, in Harder to Breathe was that was the lead single from the initial release.
The first single.
And then they had a re-release in 2003.
Yeah, because that was the lead single, and it didn't, from what I understand now, it didn't take off as big then. And then their second single was This Love. And that's the one that really sort of got people excited.
So from there you wore out that song until the album itself came out. And then when the album itself came out, how did you purchase it? What media format are we talking about? Was it a CD? Was it a MP3? I guess this was the turning point, wasn't it? 2002, 2003.
It was, yeah. So this was also in the heyday of LimeWire.
Yeah.
And so but it is an album that I actually went out and purchased the CD with my own money the day that it came out. I had the jewel case. I was looking at the little lyrics inside the booklet or whatever. Very excited to have that one physically on CD, and then proceeded to burn it 6 ways to sundown.
Right. Because that's what you did back then. Is you're like, I'm going to get this, and then I'm going to have it forever in whatever form I want, because I'm just going to burn it to my hard drive.
Yeah, exactly.
What a time that was. You get 60,000 points for LimeWire. That was a good. I haven't thought about LimeWire in a minute.
I really miss like you describing opening the jewel case and looking through the booklet. I mean, oh man. Like that used to be my favorite thing to do. Like every time I got a new CD, like I would have to devote, an hour to an hour and a half to like not only just listening to the album, but also just poring over the artwork and reading through everything. Even the special thanks. Sometimes they'd put like little messages in there. Oh man.
The jewel case I remember best was actually for one of the tour mates of Maroon 5 from that era, which was Sugar Ray. And I had the Sugar Ray. I can't remember what album it was. It was the Sugar Ray album. I'm sure there's only like one or two. And I don't know why I remember this, but I remember looking in the back of the booklet, and the bassist was like deep sea fishing in the back of the booklet that came in the jewel case. And he had like the rod was really bent. And I remember being like, fuck yeah, that dude's like really fishing. Like he's really like, that dude's a serious fisherman. Okay, but so you said, we were talking earlier about how, the music of the music is the first thing that you get locked into with a piece of music. So is it for this one, what was it about the musical quality of this album how would you characterize those sounds that you were hearing that were so revelatory?
Totally. This I feel like I can talk a lot about, because it precedes my incredible disappointment with what has since become Maroon 5.
Yeah.
Just what I found so alluring about this album in particular, which is what you alluded to in your 60-second piece, but the sort of funk jazz influences that are so present in the musicality of the thing. It was just such a nice surprise for me, because it's not that tone out, that quality isn't as present in Harder to Breathe, in the lead single. And so like I liked that song, and so I was expecting more of that when I got the album, and then to listen to the rest of the album and feel like I know what these sounds are. I know where this is coming from because this is a rock album, but it also sounds a little bit like what my dad likes to listen to. It also sounds a little bit like what my mom likes to listen to, but
Yeah.
it's just for me. It felt closer to home for me than a lot of other rock music might in a weird and interesting way.
Yeah.
And I just really, really appreciated the sort of funky jazziness of that album. Like that was the thing that I gravitated toward the most. And the way it sort of shows up in different ways, kind of track by track as you move through. It's just a really like musically fun listen that was kind of unexpected and surprising to me at the time. I was 14.
Yeah.
You know, not too wise in the ways of the world yet, but at the time it felt really like I've never heard anything like this and I never want to stop listening to it.
Hell yeah.
And I didn't.
It's evergreen, I think, in some ways, and I'm saying that seriously. You know, like I can, I'll continue the bit. Don't worry about how insane it is that we're talking about this. But there is something when you really give it a listen, when you go back through it track by track, and you think to yourself, "My God, how many times have I heard this song over the last 22 years, and how much these songs have stuck around?" They're just so accessible, so open. And I think they're simple songs too. You know, they're anchored by his voice. So there really is,
Totally.
It doesn't surprise me at all that it was so accessible to you as a 14-year-old. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it felt, I don't know. And it felt like there's something about the way, like the musical storytelling that was going on and the way that the songs felt as you're listening to them. Like, you know, I'm a 14-year-old gay boy growing up in Tennessee. I have not lived any of the experiences that are happening in this album that we're talking about, but the sort of like what it allowed me to feel in my imagination and sort of look forward to and dream about and hope for was really thrilling.
I like that. I gave you 100,000 points for it felt closer to home. It's well said. You've painted such a beautiful picture so far. Why don't we let our listeners hear a little bit just to refresh their memory? Tell us, Michael, what have you chosen as your standout track from the album?
I chose the track Sunday Morning.
A classic. All right, everyone. Well, we're going to play Sunday Morning for you. If you are on Spotify or YouTube, you're about to hear the whole song. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, you'll hear just a wee snippet, but it'll be sweet. We'll see you in just a minute.